The Nigeria's capital market has been brought under the limelight following plans by the regulatory body, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, to help boost the markets, bringing back market confidence, putting a lot of policies in place to help tackle what transpired last year. A lot of issues were actually tabled for the press to settle just about 2 days ago, when the Director General of the Exchange, Ms. Aruma Ote, briefed the financial press. And part of what she said will be happening in the capital market this year is the restructuring of the Abuja Securities and Commodities Exchange. Also, the development of the housing finance sector of the market. Of course, the issue of forbearance for stock traders was also mentioned, where she said that efforts have been made to help, perhaps help stock traders and other dealing members of the Nigerian Stock Exchange to help tackle the problems of margin loan or overhang. And so let's see how that turns out to be. Efforts have been made to talk to the Finance Ministry, also the Central Bank of Nigeria, to help see how they can help the Stock Exchange extend the repayment period of the margin loans gotten from the banks. Of course, also put to the table is increased market participation. The SEC says that it will help increase market participation this year. Also, the listing of critical sectors of the economy was also mentioned. The SEC boss was saying that there are efforts seeing how they can woo or persuade other companies from the telecoms, agriculture, which make about 40% of the GDP. Companies in this subsector should be able to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So there are efforts that will be made this year to see how they can ensure that they list on the market. Also, there will be repayment, hopefully, of about 40 billion naira unclaimed dividends. Effort will be made to ensure that this amount of money is reduced, and shareholders and investors will be able to get some of these monies by the end of the year. Of course, market deepening was also mentioned. The SEC said that it will see working with other financial bodies to ensure that the market is deepened, and the conversion to the International Finance Reporting Standards will also be adhered to this year. Companies quoted on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange will have to convert to this IFRS. And so we're going to play you a clip of what she said at the briefing and talking to financial press. In that briefing were also officials of the Securities and Exchange Commission talking to the financial press about what they have in store for the capital markets in 2012.
When we look at our markets versus other markets, we know for sure that it's operating below its potential. We know that if we address some of the things that I've highlighted, that it will be a market that will operate at its potential. Today, the South Africa stock markets, in terms of market cap, are almost 300% of GDP, while our own, Mr. King, I think is about 17%. 17 to 20% today. So the path that we need to take is a path that we all together must work decisively, such that this country can realize its potential, but such that the capital markets can play the role in supporting Nigeria in realizing its potential. And therefore, issues of creating investor awareness, leveraging all of the communications channels for us, broadening our Catch Them Young program, where we're building lifelong skills from at the secondary school level, whether it be supporting capital market clubs, working with the Ministry of Education to ensure that the curriculum of secondary schools, the curriculum of universities allow capital markets training, so that we can have issues of savings and investments imbibed in our young people. This year, we're working decisively on a financial planning and investment advisory initiative, as happens in other parts of the world, because we need to groom a crop of young people who can be the people who will tell retail investors about different products of investing in equities. I've already indicated some of the progress that we've made in terms of technology at the SEC. We are working on a market-wide initiative on technology, because we believe that technology will transform our capital market. And we agreed, both during our retreat, the first capital markets committee retreat that we've ever had in December last year, and last week when we met the different stakeholders, that we must put technology at the center of the transformation agenda for the capital markets. We are making efforts to try and enhance our whistleblowing mechanisms. We believe that it will encourage individuals to report infractions. When we launch our whistleblowing mechanism, we expect by the second half of the year to launch a full-blown whistleblowing mechanism. We have already set up whistleblowing hotlines. We're currently training some staff who will work with third parties, and we expect certainly that by the end of April, we should be able to come back to you to share with you in terms of what we're doing with whistleblowing, because we do believe that it's very, very important to conserving some of the gains we've had over the last 2 years in terms of market integrity. Since March of 2008, or I would say since 2007, when the global financial meltdown started, we're very excited about the potential of our markets. The capital market operators have already started to tell us about the dividends of what we have done in terms of promoting best practice, in terms of our stance of zero tolerance for anything that is improper. We believe that the capital markets are an enabler for any economy. We believe even more so for our economy today, given that it is not diversified, given that we're looking for an economy and growth that creates jobs, given the President's job creation agenda, given for us the importance of corporate governance. We believe that capital markets promote a meritocracy, that they enable, whether it be public sector or private sector, raise funds for their businesses. We believe that as we make medium to long-term funds available, whether through the bond markets or through the equity market, that both public sector and private sector can help address the infrastructure deficit that we see, which has been a big constraint to businesses. We believe that the challenges are not insurmountable, and we believe that, most importantly, that you, the media, and you're described as the fourth arm of government, have such a critical role to play in the area of investor outreach and public enlightenment. You're all very familiar with our initiative in Rivers State in July of 2011, where we had an outreach program with the government, with the people, as well as the people of Rivers State. This enabled us to educate the citizenry on the benefits of investing in the capital market, on the government, on the benefits of leveraging the capital markets to meet their development requirements, and also to respond to a number of the questions that people in the South, South, and Southeast region had with respect to some of the difficulties that we had in our markets between 2007 and 2009. You're also very familiar with our Project 50 initiative, which essentially was us leveraging the fact that in October this year, that it will be 50 years since capital market regulation started, and we started 1 year before to promote Nigeria as the preferred investment destination. You all are familiar with our 31st October event, which allowed us to bring together leading international and local investors with CEOs of companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, financial sector leaders, to showcase the wealth of investment opportunities that Nigeria has to offer. Our goal is to continue to use whatever channels are available to continue to educate Nigerians about the importance of the capital markets to their own well-being and to transforming our society. We also registered a number of market operators. Notable is the approval in principle that we granted the National Association of Securities Dealers, as well as the one that's sponsored by the Financial Market Development Association. We have received a number of questions about what we are doing with respect to supporting the Nigerian Stock Exchange in its demutualization agenda. In September of last year, the board of the SEC set up an industry-wide committee to examine the experience of other countries, the issues around the demutualization of an exchange, and to make appropriate recommendations. Speaking at a workshop that we'll be organizing next month on this issue, as well as the coordinating minister of the economy, our supervising minister, as well as the central bank governor, the minister of agriculture, the Abuja Securities and Commodities Exchange and itself and ourselves. During last year, had a touch-based discussion on some of the issues that will enable us transform the Abuja Securities and Commodities Exchange. We have the benefit of an international expert who did an assessment, and I believe that this year, certainly, we will make progress on making sure that the Abuja Securities and Exchange Commission is positioned to support the transformation agenda in agriculture and in other sectors of the economy.
Okay, that was the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission there. But just we'll get back to what else she has said, and we'll expand sheet on it before we wrap up the show. But just coming in from the ongoing Securities and Exchange Commission's Africa Middle East Regional Conference in Mombasa, Kenya, we got Esther Budaga giving us some insight earlier on as to what has been happening. One of the issues raised as greater integration among the markets, various markets in Africa, the Middle East. There is the need for greater integration among the markets. Also, there is a need for cooperation among the players on the continent to see how they can foster unity and help improve the various operations in the various markets on the continent. Of course, there is also the need to develop the market and ensure that they work with the same policies and the same rules. I hope we're trying to reach Esther right now. Good morning, Esther. Reaching us live from Mombasa, Kenya, is Esther Budaga, taking a look at what's been happening during the ongoing Africa Middle East Regional Conference of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Good morning, Esther. Can you hear me?
Morning, Bolaji. I can hear you.
Okay, could you just give us...
28th edition.
All right. Could you just put us up to speed with what's happening over there?
Okay, first of all, it's the 28th edition of the Africa Middle East Regional Committee, AMEC. This region is also under the International Organization of Securities Commissions, also known as IOSCO. At this time, Kenya is playing host, and we are on the island of Mombasa. Now we have the Director Generals of the Securities and Exchange Commissions of member countries, Ghana, Nigeria, Tanzania, Malawi, and also from the United Arab Emirates. But the Director General of the Nigerian Securities and Exchange Commission, Ms. Aruma Ute, is present here. She's actually the chairperson of the meeting and leading all the deliberations. Well, let me also say at this point that Kenya and Nigeria have just signed a memorandum of understanding. 2 committees have been constituted, and both countries will now be working together on how to develop both the capital market, that's the Nigerian capital market and the Kenyan capital market. Well, why they're doing this because right now, unfortunately, both capital markets are still not representative of the economies of both countries. Of course, we still know what the challenges are. Still trying to deepen the markets and make it more competitive compared to developed markets. So that's one of the reasons why both countries have just, as I speak to you, they're signing that MOU right now. Now, the theme of this year's conference is regional cooperation for capital market stability, harmonization of regulatory and policy frameworks. Now, the countries under the AMEC, they meet every year to bring one another up to speed on the latest trends at their various capital markets and how member countries are dealing with challenges facing their capital markets. Now, in her presentation, the DG of Security Nigeria's SEC DG, she stressed the need for better cooperation and harmonization among the African capital markets, and more importantly, the need to develop the market to the point where they become the preferred choice for investors from other regions. We know what's going on globally right now. Of course, the Eurozone debt crisis is still there, so investors have been faced with the need to put their money where they can get the best returns. And unfortunately, African capital markets are still not where they ought to be today. So those are the issues that policymakers here are discussing, trying to rub minds, bring each other up to speed on policies, how they can foster better cooperation among African capital markets to develop the market, deepen the market, and bring them up to the point where they become the preferred choice for investors at this time. She also stressed the need to protect the market from the fragile economic conditions across the globe and to sustain the gains that have been made so far by capital markets in Africa. She stressed, she pointed out the fact that using their crisis is still not over, and policymakers said Securities and Exchange Commissions in Africa need to protect all the gains and achievements that they have made so far on the African continent. Bolaji. All
right, Esther, just before I let you go, I know that you're running out of time. When you talk about signing the MOUs, the big players on the continent, like South Africa, which market is bigger than ours, so about 300% of South Africa's stock market is 300% of that is the GDP of the economy. Are there specific ways by which they intend to harness the resources to ensure that they get what they want from this? Are there plans to work with the various governments in their own countries to ensure that the capital market gets back on its feet and is able to compete internationally?
Okay, yes, but I don't know the full details of the MOU. Now they're still signing it, but I can tell you that definitely they will be speaking to their individual governments. Of course, in terms of policy formulations that would help deepen and develop this market. So, of course, we know that South Africa is the most developed market on the African continent, but there is focus now on other peripheral African nations who especially the ones under the African Middle East region, such as Malawi. Nigeria also falls under it. Of course, there's focus on them right now to develop this particular market. So basically what they're saying is, okay, we do know that South Africa, we have one country on the African continent that has a developed economy, but if other African countries, smaller ones, not just the smaller ones, every one of them can also be developed to the stage where they become very much developed and become a preferred choice for investors, then the whole African continent as a whole, would become a force to be reckoned with. So it's not just about focusing on the developed economies such as South Africa or perhaps Nigeria, but they also want to bring up other African countries, other African capital markets up to the stage where, as a whole, Africa would be considered the preferred choice for investors.
All right, thank you, Esther. I have to let you go at this point. Thank you, Esther. We've been talking to Esther Obudaga, reaching us from Mombasa, Kenya, the ongoing Securities and Exchange Commission's Africa Middle East Regional Conference. It's an annual event. One of the things she said was there is an MOU that has been signed between Kenya and Nigeria right now, as part of ways to develop the capital market, there is a need to also promote greater integration among the various markets on the continent, cooperation among the various markets in terms of ideas exchange, developing and deepening of the market was also discussed at that meeting. It's an ongoing meeting. We hope we can get her again tomorrow to talk about what else is happening on the show during the program. And also there is a need to also work with the various governments in the many countries that are represented at the meeting to see how they can ensure that the market gets up and is able to compete internationally. Investors around the world are groaning under the weight of recession and the losses owing from the downslide we're recording in many of the stock markets around the world. Various measures have been put in place by the various Securities and Exchange Commissions from the US to the UK to see that the market stays afloat and is not drowned in the ongoing crisis of rocking the various countries, and of course that emanating from the Eurozone. All right, let's get back to Ms. Aroma Ote as to what she was saying earlier on. Let's just expatiate a little bit. One of the things she said was that she's actually at that meeting in Mombasa, but just before she left the country, she was giving us what the capital market would be like in 2012. And one of the plans of the SEC is to restructure the Abuja Securities and Commodities Exchange. The plans have been on the way. There's been a series of meetings between the SEC, of course, with the World Bank, the Agricultural Transformation Agenda of the federal government, the Ministry of Agriculture, among other institutions, to ensure that they position this commission in line with the development plan of the present administration of President Goodluck Jonathan. And we've seen that the insistence of the SEC, the ASCE, that's Abuja Securities and Commodities Exchange, was mandated to comply with minimum financial regulations with regards to the submission of audited annual financial statements. The ASCE, for the first time in history in 2010, presented its financial results for the period 2004 to 2009. So there are some of the steps taken to ensure that the ASCE lives up to its standards and is upgraded to be able to function properly. One of the other things she also mentioned was the development of the housing finance sector is at the front burner right now as we speak. The provision of affordable housing tops the agenda of the federal government, as we all know, and of course of many state governments as well. So the SEC is positioning the capital market in 2012 to play a leading role in making this a reality. The deficit that is being witnessed in the market right now, I hope we can put that on the screen for our viewers to also see some of the points that we're going through right now. There is an estimated deficit of about 18 to 20 million housing gaps in the country, and so efforts have been made at this point in time to see how they can up the housing finance sector of the market. Of course, the forbearance issue for stock traders was also a very big one, if you ask me, and many brokers are still contending with the overhang of margin loan and underwriting loans from the boom years. In spite of the significant drop in exposure to 44 billion naira in 2011 from over 300 billion naira, the overhang continues to impede the ability of many stock traders or stockbrokers to provide liquidity to the markets. Now, there have been representations on their behalf through the Ministry of Finance, and this year the SEC says it will continue to explore ways of alleviating the impact, either by way of forbearance, debt forgiveness, and so on, to revitalize the firms, improving liquidity and restore investment confidence in the equities market. Of course, there is also the plan to increase market participation. This has to do with trying to bring many investors, supposedly investors who are not right now in the market, to come and be part of the 5 million. That's the increase in number from 5 million Nigerians. That's roughly 3% of the total population are participating in the market. So there are plans to actually increase this figure to ensure that more people, more investors are able to also operate in the capital market. Don't forget, there is a financial inclusion of the Central Bank of Nigeria by way of policies. The cashless economy is one way that the Central Bank is using to ensure that other people that are not actively involved in the financial sector are brought in to use alternative means of actually depositing or withdrawing cash from banks. So this year, the SEC says it's going to undertake a number of initiatives to encourage and boost participation by Nigerian retail investors. And one way of achieving this is by finding more innovative ways of building a culture of savings and investment. Also, it is set to encourage the participation of Nigerians through institutional vehicles like mutual funds and collective investment schemes. Of course, in the list of the SEC, on the list of the SEC is also the issue of listing of the critical sectors of the economy. This involves companies from oil and gas, telecoms and agriculture, as well as SMEs. So there are plans to bring these companies into the stock market. There have been preliminary discussions with targeted multinationals, particularly in the telecom and upstream oil and gas sector. Oil, as we know, is the mainstay of our economy, contributing over 90% of the foreign exchange earnings. However, agriculture, which contributes about 40% of the gross domestic product, has not been fully represented on the stock market. So there are plans to ensure that these companies from these sectors of the economy brought into the capital market. Telecoms, as we all know, is very significant to our own economy. We're seeing an estimated 80 million subscriber base at the moment, representing roughly half of the Nigerian population now use telephones around the country. So there are plans to ensure that this is there are efforts to ensure that these companies are brought into the stock market. Other issues that involves unclaimed dividends, 40 billion naira is still with many of those registrars and other financial bodies that are involved in raising funds from the market and are involved in keeping the books of quoted companies. So 40 billion naira is still being kept somewhere, and for investors who have not been able to reclaim the dividend, the SEC is saying that they will ensure that this money is reduced, even if not everyone gets it right now. Okay, market deepening and conversion to international financial reporting standards are also some of the issues that the SEC says that it will be doing to ensure that companies quoted on the market are able to comply with them. Okay, we'll be getting more reactions on the developments on the capital market for you. And of course, hopefully tomorrow we'll be hearing from Mombasa, Kenya at the ongoing Securities and Exchange Commission's Africa Middle East Regional Conference, where Esther is attending right now. We thank you for joining us on the program. We want to thank everybody for staying tuned. We hope we've been able to inform you adequately as the goings on in the capital market. We hope you join us again same time next week. I'm Bolaji Akinwale. Bye for now.